Justin Bell here on Drive To Win. It is our final show of the 2024 season. I'm here obviously at the Wynn Las Vegas. Thank you to them for providing this beautiful studio, and of course to Mobil 1 for the love of driving. Well, I've got to kick it off. My guest this week is the legendary, the icon, the titan of motorsports, Mario Andretti. So I can't wait to have him back on the show. Obviously, last time he was on, he couldn't talk much about his big news because he didn't know it. But now it seems that things are settled with Formula One, and Andretti will be getting an entry into Formula One in 2026. I can't wait to talk about it. Well, that's another year of Formula One in the history books. It's the longest ever season that they've ever had. 24 races, 6 sprints. And so much has happened that it can make your head turn. If I reflect back a little on some of the stuff we talked about during the season, some of our speculation, it's kind of wild, right? The benefit of hindsight and seeing how McLaren have come on so far from where they were. Red Bull with the almost self-destructive Christian Horner scandal and what was happening with the Verstappens. I mean, it almost defies belief to see where we are now, and to the fact that Max went on to win the World Championship. And of course, McLaren went on to win the Constructors' Championship. The race in Abu Dhabi, it was a fitting way to end the season. It was a bit like a great reality show in the fact that it keeps you, or TV show, it keeps you clinging on to the sort of the action. It answers some of your questions, but also poses a few extra ones. So it makes you desperate for the start of the next season. And of course, next year we have the new season of Drive to Survive. So imagine that, based on all the wildness that went on this year, the scandal, the speed, it's sensationalism. I think it'll be the best season yet. Lando Norris led from the start, didn't he? And it was a beautiful display of driving confidence. And for me, it was as though he had internalized, analyzed, reviewed, and then exploited all his learnings from 2024. And he went on. It was a masterful drive and a well-deserved win. But of course, not without pressure, because when his teammate, Oscar Piastri, was driven into by Max Verstappen, and with a little over-exuberance into turn one, it took out his wingman, and certainly with Ferrari running in second and third at the end, it put them into a very precarious position on the points, but it came their way. I couldn't have been happier. I mean, Charles Leclerc's drive coming from the back into third was remarkable, and I think something we will definitely remember for a while, even if he was a little peed off about it. But of course, with the Constructors' Championship, it was no easy run for Lando out front. And I hope you were doing the same as I was, just watching the way he was analyzing things with his engineer. He was keeping the pace going. They were asking him, could he maintain the pace on those tires for a longer length of time? And sometimes we hear them a bit like a squeaky toy when you're behind the wheel and your answer comes out a little distressed under pressure. He was calm, cool, and collected, and he delivered. It was very exciting. Now, obviously, when it came to the race, mathematically, with the chance of Ferrari overtaking McLaren for the World Constructors' Championship, it was all about if something disastrous happened. And so I actually was texting with Zach Brownlee on Monday, yesterday, and he said he repeated it again. It was the toughest couple of hours he's ever had. Edge of the seat stuff, and from McLaren's point of view, Oscar Piastri driving back into the top 10, super strong drive, perhaps not promoted enough on the TV broadcast, but he really did bring it up into the top 10, getting that extra couple of points. I definitely think that sets him up for next year, don't you? Watch that space with Oscar. I think he's learning. He's a sponge. He's absorbing everything he can, and I think it's just going to promote an amazing year for him next year. Although, as Lando said, this was his race. This was their year, and next year's going to be his year. By that, I'm sure he means he's going to win the World Championship. So that's the kind of confidence that we needed him to have. And an interesting little tidbit, Lando Norris is only one of 4 McLaren drivers ever to get 8 or more poles in a season. And the other ones were Mika Häkkinen, Ayrton Senna, and James Hunt. So I'm sure that's a nice record to have to his name. Ferrari, well, with Charles Leclerc's 10 spot, a grid penalty. He started 19th, but he was up to 7th at the end of lap 1. And there was so much chaos happening. And I'm thinking to myself, that is the kind of drive that when you're behind the wheel, you've only got one way forward. And I can appreciate what it is. He doesn't want to, he's nowhere to go backwards. And he really did perform. And I really enjoyed watching his overtaking all the way up. It was magical, all the way up into 3rd place. And you might kind of question yourself why you would be disappointed with finishing Ferrari 2nd and 3rd and, just losing the Constructors' Championship. Charles Leclerc put everything into it, and he is the lead driver going. Lewis Hamilton will equal him in that responsibility, but he's the lead driver going into next season, and he put it all on the table. I was disappointed for him too, but I'm sure he'll wake up one morning this week reflecting on what was an amazing year. What do you think of Carlos Sainz then? Finishing 2nd. In another world, he might have won the race. But finishing 2nd on the podium in his final race for Ferrari, I found that the emotion that was so evident for him throughout these last few races was sort of over brimming the cup, if you like, at the end. And I'm sure that he will be ready to move on, because it's been a bit of a weird year for him, even though he's done so well. But I love the fact that he said in those last few laps, he was analyzing what the car was doing, because he knows that this week he's already been in the car by the time the show airs. He's already been in the Williams. He'll be being asked by Williams, what do you think about the turning? What do you think about all the elements of the car compared to the Ferrari? And there's no written or physical data. It's in his mind and what he feels through his hands and feet and bum. So I'm sure he was literally doing that. And what a great way to end his career. I want to quickly talk about Mercedes, obviously, especially Lewis Hamilton and his run to 4th place. It was such a strong finish. Amazing drive from P16. I hope as we go into next year, we get rid of some of his, sometimes I think, self-defacing comments like, I'm not fast anymore, I haven't got it. I think he just gets so tough on himself. Imagine you are the most successful Formula One driver in history, and you're qualifying 16th. I know he had a bollard under the car and things, which he picked up. But I think for Lewis, he's definitely, at the end of the race, you could see that emotion, that stunning overtake on George Russell on the final lap to take 4th place. It was on Instagram yesterday, someone from the crowd had a different angle, and just seeing the fluid speed, holding it in. He still has, huge balls, if you like, to drive a race car. And I've said it all the way along, I think he's going to go into Ferrari like a old dog with a new puppy to play with. He will be ready to go. But we do have to make mention of his career at Mercedes. 246th race this weekend. He's won 6 of his 7 world championships with them, 84 races they won, 153 podiums, and 78 poles. If you do the math on that, he's basically up there. Nearly in half his races, he's been on the podium for the brand over this incredible career. So he is the GOAT. That's why he's knighted by the King of England, and it couldn't be more impressive to that. What a way to end. And I'm sure, his emotions were overspilling at the end, and it's easy to go, he's a old man, why is he crying? But he is that kind of a guy. That's the passion and intensity he brings, and I'm sure they're ready for it at Ferrari. It's going to be super fun. Red Bull's race. Well, we saw Max. He owned up to it. He just wanted to get by. I want to talk about that into turn 1. When you've already won the World Championship, you're signed, sealed, and delivered for your seat as long as you want. It's funny, if you're not a sportsman, if you've never competed in anything, either amateur or professionally, it's very easy. I've had people say it. why would you push so hard? Why wouldn't you just cruise around for the last couple of races? That is not what maketh a racer. And if Max is one thing, it is he is the most ruthless racing driver in a way of his generation. And he never gives a quarter. And even though he was world champion, he wanted a win every time. And he had a pretty decent, strong run back to 6th. But other than that incident with Oscar Piastri, he raced clean and he didn't upset anyone else's race to the flag. And I respected that because he did have moments he was engaged on track with other drivers and teams that had a lot to play for respectively in their championship. So I thought he did a great job. And then when the flag fell, there were moments, I guess, to make people a little teary-eyed, depending on your allegiances. I think we've already covered it with obviously Lewis up at the front and Carlos going off to Ferrari. But there were another couple of milestones. I mean, in one way, the end of the Valtteri Bottas era. He is going to go to Mercedes-Benz as reserve driver, which I believe and hope will happen, and he'll bring a lot to that team. I don't know. I love him in the sport, don't you? I just really enjoy his social media. I enjoy the way he seems to live the life at home in reality as much as he resembles on his social media. So I enjoy watching him, and has a lot of experience, and of course a multiple race winner. And not insignificant that Lewis Hamilton chose to stand next to him on the drivers' parade, the final one, because they were great teammates too. And the end of Kevin Magnussen in Formula One. I thought it was a lovely gesture to put him out there on new tires. It does show, doesn't it? New tires, clean track, clear track. Any of these drivers can pop it in at the fastest lap, given the shot, and they made the most of it. So what a nice moment for him to wrap up. I have enjoyed his Formula One career so much. I don't know if I'd ever wanted to have raced against him because he is so tough. He's one of the few drivers that Max will give space to when he goes to overtake, because Kevin doesn't give a damn who you are, where you are, and what position you're in. He will race you to every moment of the corner. He'll race you to the apex like no one else. And now he's a BMW factory driver. So I'm very excited for that, which of course means there's more reason to probably go to the Daytona 24 Hours this year, because he will be there. So good luck, Kevin. Enjoy the next phase. Actually, Jamie Price, who's one of the top motorsports photographers, he got a beautiful photograph of Kevin with his kids on the grid and things. He also got a beautiful one of Max with his stepdaughter. So, Jamie, thank you for all those photographs. They were really good. Talked about Carlos Sainz. Good luck there. I think as of the news that we saw this morning, he's going to be pretty excited about his Williams opportunity. But Sergio Perez in that race, I mean, it really summed it up, didn't he? He spun out. I don't know, dumped the clutch too hard. I don't even have a clutch. Whatever he dumped, he ended up cooking the diff and the drivetrain. So he was retired from the race soon thereafter for the second weekend in a row. And my initial notes when I was watching this on Sunday was, it has to be over, right? Well, it is over. The speculation is now put to bed, and Liam Lawson will be replacing him at Red Bull next year. A bold choice. Jeremiah, my producer, and I were talking about it over coffee. I think Liam lining up against Max has put two rambunctious, very strong-willed drivers together at different ends of their career. Liam still has a lot to prove, but just his antics this year, going head-to-head with Fernando Alonso, not giving any quarter, I think he could be the right choice, and it'll be very interesting to see how he converts this opportunity into reality. Is he mentally strong enough? Something tells me he is. So very excited. And Sergio Perez, you've had an amazing career in Formula One, and you will be an ambassador to the sport. I know you bring a lot to it, especially to the Latin America, South American market, and maybe everything is falling into place just as it should do. So very exciting things coming into this last race. I really enjoyed it, but as I said, it's more about all the secondary story arcs than the actual race. Lando led from start to finish, and they won that championship, so very happy for them. Well, let's talk about my next guest. A man that, for anyone who loves motorsport, he is the biggest name in so many ways. Mario Andretti was in Formula One from 1968 to 1982, and then IndyCar from 1964 to 94. My God, that was a 30-year career. He won the World Championship in Formula One in 1978, and I think we all know how difficult that is, having watched this season. 12 Grand Prix he won across his 14 seasons in it. He's won 4 IndyCar championships, and he won the Daytona 500. So pretty much he couldn't be a bigger hero to anyone who loves the sport. And of course, they've just announced that Andretti Racing have got to the next phase of their Formula One eligibility, and we'll be seeing them on the grid in 2026 with Ferrari engines for the first 2 years as Cadillac develop their own program. Well, the one and only Mario Andretti, welcome back to Drive to Win. You are a busy man. I'm surprised you've even got time to sit down for a second. How are you feeling about everything? The big news.
I feel very good, especially, and it's a good time of the year to feel good, actually. So we have reason to do so, and that's important. So yeah, life goes on, and really looking forward to what's in store for us as we continue to build here.
Yeah. I mean, last year you were gracious enough to come on the show, and we couldn't really talk about it because the Formula One thing wasn't coming through quite with the speed that you'd have liked. And I know it caused you and your whole family a lot of stress and aggravation, but I can only imagine, Mario, that these deals are of complexity that you could not have imagined. Would I be right?
I think you're correct on that side. Yes, indeed. And but again, it's I think we stayed on the road, we stayed on it, and confident that we could meet the requirements. I think that's the main thing, and ultimately, I think that's what it made them accept us. A lot of work already been done, to be prepared. And again, we just had faith in ourselves, and it paid off to many degrees. There are so many people that joined us basically on hoping that we know what we're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was always what was the big thing. We're talking obviously about Andretti being accepted into the Formula One grid for 2026 with the support of Cadillac. Any American cannot, and even an import like myself, the intensity, the significance of your name and the Cadillac name for the first, well, certainly for Cadillac, first time going into Formula One, it's going to elevate things here stateside even higher than they are at the moment. But for you, of course, Ferrari engines, that was the news that was announced this morning. Ferrari engines for the first 2 years. Great engines to have if this season's anything to go by. But for you, isn't that a little bit of a full circle journey? Who would have ever thought that you'd have reason to maybe, even have discussions with Ferrari again?
Well, isn't this the best possible option? I mean, if you're relying on a customer engine power unit to get this project going for the first couple of years until Cadillac is ready, yes, Ferrari, obviously, if you had a choice, that was it. And that makes Christmas so much better for me, so much brighter.
Yeah, exactly. You got a reason to get out the old shirts that you used to have. I mean, it is on that note, I've got to say that it gives an insight as well to, I think, your fans and fans of Formula One on the length of the lead-in time that it takes to get any element of a Formula One team up to optimal level, whether it's the drivers, whether it's the crew, the infrastructure, the chassis, or the engine program. I was asked, Mario, by a friend of mine this morning why it would take 2 years to get engines ready. And I was like, well, from a dead start, it's 3 years if you start now. But from a dead start, it is an unbelievable Herculean task, isn't it, to get yourself to get an engine department ready to run at the top level of Formula One?
Well, you can imagine Cadillac has a lot of pride in what they're doing, and they want to be really ready because they would be in a position to supply the engine to other customers in Formula One. So, and they want to be ready, know that they're going to be competitive immediately. So, again, they they're not taking any risks, necessary risk of maybe entering too early, but they're giving themselves enough leeway that everything will be exactly the way we're hoping.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. And I have to say, because I have to ask, you are the archetypal family man. I know that for you, the legacy is not just about you, it's about your sons, your grandsons. I know Michael has had to step down from one role in this infrastructure, but spiritually, he must still be for you a very big part of it. I was just asking, almost as a friend. Yes, he's not on the lineup on the paper, and I'm sure he can't be involved, but he's had a lot to do with this coming together, hasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this was his absolute original dream. I always commended him for being so, well, what's the word? So
Tenacious. I think it was tenacious, right? He never gave up.
that's one word to say it. And again, so he started it, and but he's not going away totally. He's stepping back from day to day and all that sort of thing. But you never go away from it. Just like from my standpoint, of course, I made it very clear a long, long time ago. I was never interested in fielding a team. My interest was purely in only driving. But to have Michael even being involved and being successful in the Indy cars and some of the other disciplines, I was very proud of that, and still am. And I always loved that whatever circuit, whatever discipline I went to where he was involved, I had a home to go to,
Yeah, yeah.
not just be a tourist wandering around the paddock, and that's what we're going to have again in Formula One, and so that's our world. That's been my world as long as I can remember, and that's what we live for, and we'll continue to be part of it as long as they accept us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what I love about it, Mario, is that you, for me, the 70s in, late 60s into 70s, 80s in Formula One, for so many people, that was that was the heyday of Formula One. I know then we had Ayrton Senna and obviously Schumacher and all that. But, I think there's so many people that would argue that the Formula One cars of the 70s, the JPS cars, the Marlboro cars, they summed up Formula One with the beautiful sound of those engines. That was one heyday, and now we are most definitely smack in the middle of another incredible. It's not revival; it's just wave that that Formula One is running. I mean, how exciting is it for you? You just said it. You don't want to be a layman in the paddock, but how exciting to know that you're coming back into Formula One when literally it's the biggest global sport.
Absolutely. I mean, that's definitely part of it. I mean, you couldn't put it any better. Uh, uh, this is a proper time, and to be part of it. It's Formula One is the series is flourishing in a way that we could have only hoped for a couple of years ago, especially in this country. So again, all good. I mean, there are every reason to apply yourself and use every bit of energy that you have, to just be sure that you're part of it and enjoying it. You can only enjoy if you, if you're going to be competitive, and that's the objective of
Yeah.
everyone, of course.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean,
it gives
amazing.
you real reason to just really put your best foot forward
Yeah,
in every
yeah.
way.
Does it still defy imagination? I mean, you're so involved in IndyCar and have been for decades as well, but the money that is involved in Formula One, whether it's the money that you guys are having to stake down to get in, whether it's what the drivers make, the transport costs. I bet when you see a budget, your former team owners from the 70s and 80s would roll over, wouldn't they?
Well, times do change, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about inflation, and this certainly is the ultimate inflation factor, But um, other than that, I mean, it's let's face it. I'm glad that I'm not writing all the checks.
Yeah, right. You wouldn't mind be getting some. You and Jackie Stewart, when I interviewed you with my little Life with Legends podcast, if you remember, you were both had something in common that was obviously other than driving talent, and that you had an absolute awareness of your own worth in the sport, what you brought to it, what you brought as a driver, what you brought as a personality, and providing for your family. That was something you both said to me, which really resonated. But can you imagine if you were driving now, Mario, $100 million to go to Ferrari? That's 100 million reasons why, right? For Lewis. Woo-hoo.
I always say that I think even from my standpoint of my driving style, I think I was born just a bit too early. But no regrets, however. But looking back at the growth of the sport, it's keeping pace with the rest of the world, the rest of the other professional sports. So I think motor racing, for what was involved, has been lagging behind some of the other, prominent professional sports, and it's about time that it's catching up to that level, and the drivers themselves can benefit. I mean, we used to look back, and like you say, we are talking about even with Jackie Stewart. I remember talking at Indy about how do we raise the boat here? Because look what these uh, golfers are making. On that scene, and football. Well, you name all the major sports. What are they doing? And look at us, the risks that we're taking, and so forth. But all of that again, we're catching up, and that's a good thing.
That's a good
Obviously.
thing. My last question about that for now is on the future. There's so many great examples of Formula One team operations on the grid, and obviously Red Bull were immaculate especially last year in execution. But we've seen Alpine come forward. There's elements of Aston Martin that are incredibly inspiring. What team are you really looking at as a good benchmark, as a good model for a new team coming into Formula One? What existing team is a good way to go forward, do you think?
Probably McLaren at the moment.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, what they have been able to complete. The level they're competing. When you look at the beginning of the season to where it is now, it's just amazing to see, and you could see that. Yeah, it's possible.
Right.
So I mean, again, it's still. It's all about the effort. It's the people that you surround yourself with and all that, and make the difference. The drivers, the technical side, and that's what makes it work. We know that just a one movement in a key position on a team can bring things around. We've seen that, in McLaren, obviously, and Zach Brown would be the first one to admit it. With just be sure you down the line and so forth,
Yeah.
even in Williams. So again, it's all about arming yourself with the best talent available, and that's the only assurance that you have, to be able to be competitive at the highest level.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we ended the 2024 season with all sorts of things happening, didn't we, at the weekend in Abu Dhabi? What were your thoughts on the race? It's hard almost to separate, Mario, isn't it? The emotions of some of the not retirements, but changes and things with the actual race. But talk about McLaren. What an execution for Lando out front. Give me your thoughts on the race.
Well, I think again, it was the best possible scenario you could expect for the last race, because it keeps it wide open for the start of next season.
Yep.
Who are going to be the protagonists? Is McLaren going to be the car to beat at the start of the season, like the war toward the end? Um, uh, Here, that's the beauty about it. It's creating that anxiety, a good anxiety, to look forward to the next season. But it's an open game. It really is. I'm sure a lot of fans looking at Lewis going to Ferrari, which is always, something of interest in every way. And many eyes are going to be what Carlos Sainz could bring to Williams.
Yeah.
On and on and on. So all good stuff. All good stuff to look forward to.
Great answer. And it makes me reflect on in the race. As you know, when we're a driver, you could have a race to 8th, Mario, couldn't you? Which was one of your best races, but pretty much unseen by others, other than your own team. Thankfully, I think the broadcast does a good job of shining the spotlight on like Gasly and how well he's doing. You see these moments, but I love the fact that Formula One has evolved, especially at the end of this regulation phase, with 1 year left to go, that the gap between those teams is so tight. I don't think, going into last week's race, you could easily have said who was going to win. And going into next year, there's almost no way to predict who will come out on top.
Well, all you have to do is look at even qualifying, like maybe from first to fifth or sixth. It's like sometimes maybe 0.2 of a second.
Yeah, yeah.
And between, like, say, 4 manufacturers. That's one of the things that I look at usually, and that's the fascination about it. It's each one is his own manufacturer, and yet obviously everybody is working out of the same rule book. But once the regulations are stable for a few years, you can see that everybody just inches up to the envelope level. And we've seen this in particular this year.
Yeah.
And that's going to be interesting how everybody starts with a clean slate in 2026, engines and chassis. And so again, but the good thing is now that it looks like that you're going to have a wide range of potential teams that could be very annoying, to what is considered the very top for as the next season,
I
the
think so.
2025 season.
I think so. There's one thing, well, team management you guys have got pretty good at. When it comes to evaluating the competition, I think you were one of the best at that, knowing where your skills lay, where your strong points were. When you look at the drivers out there right now, what driving style do you identify with most? Is it a Max? Is it a Lando? Is it an Oscar? A Sergio? Who do you go? Actually, they're pretty like me.
Max.
Yeah, good answer, Mario. I can't say that, but you can.
Yeah, I mean, you look back, what actually was the negative for me, I was too aggressive, right from the start of the race. I didn't have the patience, and which would have paid off for me today. But in those days, I used to wring too much out of the car. I didn't have that patience, to pace myself. And so again, my style would have worked very, very well today.
Yeah, because the cars are rocket bulletproof, aren't they? They're so strong. No management of the gearbox, no brakes.
Regulations give you that, like in all the disciplines now, because by regulation, you're not taking everything out of the engines.
Yeah.
Especially, you're just engines capable of 60,000 RPM. They're regulated at 12.5. So
yeah.
that you're supposed to go and you're under punishment, you don't go at least 2,000 miles or whatever,
Yeah.
the rule says in that particular discipline. So, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the sport. I mean, you look at the fields now, uh, probably 98% of the field ends the race the way they start. You don't have too many dropouts. So that's a good thing for the sport. And again, I just looking back, I said, man, would I love to be racing today, driving myself today.
Well, I know if given the chance, you would be right there. Even I know when they go to the first test, you'll be like, okay, I mean, I could add something. I know you love it so much. It is who you are. But a question about, just from your observation, I think we saw Lando execute a beautiful race on Sunday. He led, had a great start. Obviously, Max getting spun out probably was spinning out Oscar was probably an advantage to allowing him to settle into the race. But a lot of pressure there at the front, doing what he had to do. One of the criticisms that we've had from some guests and even ourselves about Lando and maybe George Russell, as opposed to a Max and an Oscar Piastri, is given the opportunity out front, Lando can clear off and win. He can drive flawlessly. But do you see that killer instinct in, I'm going to say, George Russell and Lando Norris in a straight fight up against, on equal terms with a Max and I think a developing Oscar? Do you see that edge, that sort of ruthlessness that you need to be a world champion?
Well, that's hard to judge from where we stand, but the one thing that you could say that I don't think we've seen the best of Lando
Mm.
or say a George Russell, the younger set of drivers with less experience at that level, at the top level, leading a race, going into turn one and all that. I mean, Lando himself, you could see that he had to do a little bit of reflecting as to how to do that properly. Even he admitted himself, I learned a lot this year just by having had the opportunity to start up front.
Yeah.
And then once you do it, then you figure, you know what, I can do this. And let's calm down a little bit, and all that sort of thing. It's all part of it. You don't come into this thing and know everything. You learn every after every race. You learn this, you learn that, and you put it to good use. So again, it's each driver, each character has their own way of demonstrating what they have to give. And again, it's not that just that one. If you just do that, I mean, you're all set. No, there are different ways of achieving the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoyed watching Lewis's final race for Mercedes. Obviously, a great drive up. Watching him go around the outside of George, who obviously didn't fight it on that last lap, but it was a worthy drive for someone of ending his career, his stature. What do you think he's going to face when he hits Ferrari sort of next week? What do you think he's going to be faced with?
I think to be honest with you, I think he's very serene about his his move to Ferrari. It's probably I think we could safely say it's a bucket list for almost any driver in Formula One to have had, to say that he or she has driven for Ferrari. And you can see that, he sees pretty much the end of his career coming up. He figured this is an opportunity that I just want to take advantage of. And I, quite honestly, I think, I mean, he has nothing to prove. He's got everything that's needed. I mean, as you can see, even to this last race where, because of one thing or another, you saw the qualifying the one of those things, those track markers, went underneath his car, and then he just didn't get out of uh, Q1. So,
Mm.
um, but in the race, I mean, it was fun to watch. I mean, it was between he and Charles Leclerc and so on and so forth. It was a figure, oh man, they're back there. Look at that. All of a sudden, they're fighting, to be for a top five, and then And here you go. He by a whisker, he almost would have been podium when you talk about Lewis,
Yeah.
even on the last lap. Uh, of course, he knew for sure that George was going to give him enough room,
Yeah.
but nevertheless, it was a great move on the outside. It's never easy.
No, I was going to ask you that. Back in your day when the cars were moving, the threshold of grip was so evident from the inside and the outside of the car as your cars were like, would really twitch and opposite lock on the way out of a corner. These cars are so stable, even though they are right on the edge of threshold of physics, basically. But those side-by-side outside moves, they're more common these days than back when you were racing and my dad was racing, I think just because of downforce. But it's wild to see their close quarters racing, especially as the cars are like twice as big as when you raced.
Well, it's true, but it's all a matter of downforce. Obviously, you measure that, and with the ground effects you have, and by now they're much more specialized. You just feel that you get the feel of that car, and you're gonna go. You just
Yeah.
you always know if you have a little something on whoever you're trying to overtake, and you. If everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough,
Yeah.
so you gotta go.
I love it. Well, you kind of summed it up a little bit about next year. I think there's going to be so much competition. We're obviously here in Las Vegas, so it's a bit of a betting town, but I don't think you could lay a bet easy on who's going to be dominant through the year. And in fact, it probably isn't a case of that. There won't be any dominance through next year, but we are in maybe for one of the most exciting Formula One seasons, I think, in history coming up.
I think you're probably right. You cannot, anticipate, if someone comes out with a miracle or something.
Yeah.
But like I said, when the rules have been around for so long, you know that pretty much every team is caught up, and so I think that the last part of the season is a good mirror to what is going to be happening next year, in my opinion.
Well, wise words from a man that knows. Mario, we're so excited. I think the whole Formula One world is excited about the news you came out with this week. We're going to follow the story. I started this off with saying you're a family man, but your family continues to grow. Great pictures on social media of you with your grandchild, your newer grandchild. I imagine Christmas is a big affair at the Andretti house.
It's big indeed. Yes, we look forward to it. My wife always insisted, Christmas, I don't care where you are in the world, we have to be together. And we're trying to obviously maintain that. And we all look forward to it.
Well done. Well, thank you so much, Mario. God bless. Have a great Christmas. And we'll catch up in the new year. Thanks for taking the time, my friend.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, as always, just incredible to talk with the legend that is Mario Andretti. And I still actually have to pinch myself. I am talking to Mario Andretti while he's at home in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. And we're talking about him and his family name coming back to Formula One. Blows my mind. Well, when you think about it, what is it about a race that's so exciting? All year I've said, is it the breakneck speeds, the constant pressure, the ever-present threat of danger, or is it simply the driving? Well, I was thinking about it. It's our last show. So when you were Max Verstappen and Red Bull Racing, it is definitely all about winning. And that's what Formula One is all about. It's just the greatest drivers, the most incredible high-tech, physics-defying race cars, and their ultimate freedom. And that is the same for us. It's all about the ultimate racing entertainment. So whether you drive a Formula One car at any of the top racetracks in the world, or you're taking the kids to school, it is. And for the last time this year, with a huge thanks to Mobil One for their amazing support of Drive to Win, it's all about the love of driving. So to visit loveofdriving.us/drive to win to find out more about it. And thank you, of course, to Mobil One for their incredible support this year. So what will next year bring? Well, that's a bit tough to say. It's such a short off season, and I did kick it off at the top of the show by saying it's like a great TV series. There's so many unanswered questions going into the off season. Of course, they're testing right now. They have their season big prize giving at the end of the year that's coming up. They're doing those festivities, but meanwhile, there are thousands, tens of thousands of amazingly talented young men and women at all these factories around the world preparing their cars to compete in the top world of Formula One next season. What should we look forward to? Well, I've said that Formula One is all about momentum. McLaren have it right now. Lando Norris is proving to be an incredibly fast learner, and I think it could be his season next year, but not if Oscar Piastri has anything to say about it. He has that very gracious outlook on racing, and they have given the perfect yin and yang. But next year, both of them with a clean slate, one of the fastest cars, I think they're going to be very competitive and fireworks will fly. George Russell and Max Verstappen, they've had their tiff going into the off-season, so will absence make the heart grow fonder? I'm not sure about that. I hope they can reconcile it because it's all a bit infantile, but the hot pressure cooking pot of Formula One does bring out sometimes the worst in people, but when it comes to it, it's all about on-track rivalry, so we'll see how that goes for them. Either way, Max Verstappen, will he be bringing it to the table to try and win a 5th world championship? Something tells me, well, he'll be ready. Others will be there to thwart him. We know that Sergio Perez has moved on. We're looking forward to seeing him in the paddock. I'm just super excited to see how Liam Lawson will do into next year. Really, until they go to that first preseason test, that's the first time the cards are open and lay on the table. So we'll be following that closely. And for me, maybe the biggest, most exciting reason to tune in at the beginning of next year is Lewis Hamilton moving over to the prancing horse family. Some great images on social media, the fact that he's been gifted Enzo Ferrari's villa to stay in while he is in Maranello, complete with the car museum. I mean, imagine that. Does he get to stay in Enzo's bed? That'd be kind of wild. Maybe he uses the guest room. Either way, he is being treated like racing royalty, which he is, and I'm really excited to see it happen. I think he's going to take some time off. He's not participating in the test this week. I think he really needs a mental reset. And when Lewis resets, it may be a new red version of Hammer Time. Remember, though, there is an interesting statistic I heard yesterday. Only one driver over 40 has ever won a Formula One race in over 54 years, and that was our brilliant, tough Nigel Mansell, a British driver who was obviously a Formula One world champion, but he did it over the age of 40. So let's see. I think this is a different era. I think Lewis can do it. So super excited. I think the big thing for me at Ferrari will also be arguably, actually not even arguably, almost indisputably, Charles Leclerc is one of the fastest drivers over one lap. Lewis Hamilton is one of the best racing drivers over those 70 plus laps. So I think we're going to see this convergence of their skill sets. And with Fred Vasseur just doing this outrageous job of bringing Ferrari to the front, I think we're in for absolutely mind-blowing next year. There are at least 4 to 5 teams in the running to win each race all through next year. And I think we're set for something very special. Of course, on that final note, this is the era of the rookies, whether it's Doohan, Behrman, Colapinto, Antonelli. There's youth, there's energy, and there's incredible talent being brought into Formula One. But also with that youthful exuberance, there's more of a propensity to mistakes. So that definitely puts the cat amongst the pigeons, as they say. I really can't wait. Well, the Formula One next year season will kick off on 16th of March. Australian Grand Prix kicks off the season for the first time since 2019, and then the preseason testing in Bahrain. So a lot for us to look forward to. I want to say thank you, obviously, to all my guests this year. Everybody has been so amazing, having people like Christian Horner and David Coulthard and Ruth Buskin come into the studio during the Ultimate Race Week here in Formula One, Las Vegas. Having people taking time around the world to join me on the show has really been very, very special. Mobil One, I can't thank you enough for all your support. It really has helped bring the show out to a wider audience, and we've loved the Mobil One pit stops. They have been epic. The Wynn Las Vegas. Boy, you sure are fast learners. You have teamwork in this building that would rival a Formula One team. The Concours at the Wynn Las Vegas established itself this year in its third year as one of the events on the automotive social lifestyle calendar. It was extraordinary, and just for me, something very special to be a part of. And of course, Ultimate Race Week, kicking it off with the open ceremonies at the racetrack all the way through to the after parties here, taking place here inside the Wynn Las Vegas. We hit amazing numbers. Everybody had a great time. And Formula One in Las Vegas is definitely here to stay. The management team, I got to say, just as a little personal note here, have really been inspiring to me. I learn every day what it takes to be better at what you do. And in every way, there's too many people to mention by name, but I'll try. Brian, Arga, Deanna, Jordan, Troy, Abby, Sarah, Carolina, and of course, my main man, Paulie. Thank you all very much for your faith in the podcast and all this incredible support. And most importantly, my production team right behind that window there. Brian, who attempts to make me look good, which is a tough job for any man. And of course to Jeremiah for being my partner in crime on this and talking every day about how we can make it better and keeping me on track. Remember, talk about the bloody race. That's all he tells me. Anyway, it's a wonderful family. I'm incredibly proud to be a part of it. We will be back in 2025. That is for sure. Enjoy your holidays, everybody. And let's look forward to next year. Take care, guys. Bye.